Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for attending our 2020 Water Industry Breakfast here in Bunbury, Integrated Water Management for the Southwest region. I would like to request who hasn't done yet, please turn off your mobile phones. We have lots of interesting things happening here on the stage for you to watch. I'm Fabiana Tessele. I'm going to be today your MC and your panel facilitator. And first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we're sitting this morning. We respectfully acknowledge its past, present, and future traditional custodians, the Wardandi Noongar people. We honor the important relationship between Aboriginal people, the water, and the land. We are delighted to be able to gather our Southwest members and guests here in Bunbury, as well as having guests in Perth and people joining via webinar. Our retiring president, Rachel Evans, she cannot be with us today, and she asked me to relay to you her apologies. She would like to express her gratitude to the branch committee and all associated volunteers. She truly enjoyed leading a passionate and engaging group of water leaders, and she knows that they will continue to provide leadership into the future here in WA and across the country. On behalf of Rachel, we'd like to wish the best of luck to Corinne, our new AWA CEO, to Peter Spencer as our new president, and Garth Walter as our new vice president. I'm also pleased to note that in June, Peter Moore, he was awarded the AWA Lifetime Achievement Award, which recognizes and honors Australian Water Association members who had outstanding input to the association and to the water industry. Peter is with us in Perth, and it's an honor to have him around with us. I'd like to thank our current WA branch committee members for their dedication to assist in making our branch main events successful. With the elections this year, we had some members stepping down. I'd like to thank them for the efforts, and also others joining in, and welcome everybody. We also would like to thank our GOLD, I think one more, our GOLD program partners, the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, the Water Corporation, and Aqwest Bunbury Water, together with our silver partner, Herbert Smith Freehills, for your support in making our event possible. I would like as well to acknowledge the Australian Water Association principal members. Well, next one. Rainfall across the southwest of WA has declined over the past 3 decades. Saltwater intrusion has also had a major impact on local government and water utilities. The region has experienced increasing urban growth, deteriorating water quality, and reduced access to ground and surface water sources. But now imagine if the Southwest in 2030, we have become a benchmark for sustainability, and we work alongside the traditional owners supported by their spiritual values. We have learned how to integrate small decentralized operations, and we have a highly skilled and diverse local workforce. We integrate water uses efficiently, preserving our pristine groundwater for future generations. Our wastewater treatment plants are now called resource recovery centers, and we have one water flowing through our pipes and taps. Our economy is circular, prosperous, and we grow at a sustainable pace. We have adopted and promote robust policies that support it. Utilities, local government, industry, agribusiness all work together, and nothing goes to waste. Water and power generation operate in symbiosis, and bioenergy is a solid part of our energy matrix. Our local universities have become centers of reference for R&D in water and renewable space. People come from afar to learn our model, and we are very proud of what we have accomplished. We work together as one, each bringing to the table the best skills, talent, and passion. So this future is possible, and I think it's in the hands of most of the people in this room here. So now it's my pleasure to welcome the new CEO of the Australian Water Association, Corinne Cheeseman, who is joining us via webinar from Sydney.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present, and in particular, the contribution they have to the management of water. So today I'm joining from Sydney. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person. Maybe under different circumstances, I might have been able to travel across and meet you all personally. I have a bit of a soft spot for Western Australia. My sister and her family live there, and I was only just there in February this year in my previous role where I was doing some work in the mining industry. So I do hope to return at some stage in the future when obviously it's allowable or permissible. So I'm really pleased to be able to join you virtually and welcome all of our members in particular, and also a number of other water sector professionals that have joined this breakfast today. It's fantastic to be able to have this breakfast connecting people from the southwest region of Western Australia, Perth, and also virtually. This is a first for the association, and congratulations to our WA branch and committee members for taking this opportunity to reinvent the way we connect with our members. Connecting to regional water professionals and delivering value to members across the country and people who work in the water industry is certainly part of our strategy, and this event provides an opportunity to do just that. So I hope if this is your first event with ABUA that you actually get a lot out of it, and that you take the opportunity to network and engage in a really important conversation that'll happen today. I'd also like to, I guess, acknowledge that this is the first event that we are running since the COVID actually prevented us from running face-to-face sessions like this. And I know that our members and water industry professionals are really keen to continue to connect face-to-face. Virtual certainly provides an added opportunity, but one of the things that we want to do is to keep those connections going. We know it's so important. The water industry is an essential industry, and that has certainly proven true during COVID. And there are opportunities that have presented ourselves, such as moving to digital platforms. But we would still like to actually connect with people personally. We know that networking is extremely important to you. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to deliver this event safely in WA. And we're happy to support the continuation of a strong and resilient water industry, and we hope that you actually get a lot and enjoy the session today. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Corinne. That was really good and nice to meet you. Now I would like to invite Minister Dave Kelly, the Minister of Water, Forest, Innovation and ICT, Science and Youth, to join us via webinar from Perth. Minister Kelly. And now fingers crossed.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here this morning. Can I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Noongar people. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. But congratulations for getting this event up and running in these circumstances. It's appropriate that we acknowledge the work that's gone in, not just in Western Australia, but around the country to dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. As a minister, I have been very grateful for the support that we've got, particularly across the public sector, to allow us to deal with this issue. In Western Australia, as far as getting the economy back up and running, we're considerably a way forward than other parts of the country. And that's in no small part to the really good advice that we've got from the experts in the public sector. We released on the weekend WA's recovery plan, $5.3 billion worth of a lot of capital works that's been, some of it brought forward, some of it new, all about getting the economy back up and running. So we need to be sort of, I suppose, thankful of the position we are here in Western Australia, mindful of the very difficult circumstances that people are experiencing, especially in Victoria. In respect to the department, DWER, and the three water corporations, I just want to thank them for their input. Most government services continue to operate in a seamless way, despite people working from home and the rapid transition. In the water services area, it's pretty much the case, and I really appreciate the work that, the panic that on people's faces when it happened on the inside, but as far as the public were concerned, it was pretty seamless. So I want to thank the three water corporations and the department for the absolutely excellent way that they've dealt with this issue. Water Corporation and Aqwest are obviously sponsors, and so is the department. We really value the AWA relationship. Collaboration is very much a part of what we need to do if we're going to deal with some of the really big challenges that we have in the water policy area. Fabiana this morning had the vision of what the southwest of Western Australia might look like. I think she said 2030, if we really deal with the issues around climate change. Climate change is the biggest threat facing Western Australia when it comes to water. The southwest of Western Australia in particular is one of the places on the planet most impacted upon by declining rainfall, 25% on most measures since the 1970s. That's the reduction in rainfall that we're experiencing. That is massive. It means that surface water is becoming more and more unreliable, and we're having to spend more and more on capital works, innovation, if we're going to continue to provide the southwest of WA the water it needs. Now, the Water Corporation is spending an enormous amount of money, much of it which people don't immediately see. We announced recently the $25 million pipeline from Albany to Bunbury. Most Western Australians think, Albany to Bunbury, Albany to Denmark. That would have been news to Aqwest. The pipeline from Albany to Denmark, people think of Denmark as one of the wettest places in WA, but surface water is now not reliable for Denmark. That's just one example. Aqwest is, I think it's a $15 million project for a new bore so that they can move some of their bore fields from the coast further inland to get away from saltwater intrusion. Busselton, again, is facing that problem and are going to have to, in the long term, move some of their bores from the coast further inland. That is all because of climate change. So we've got enormous challenges ahead of us. We also announced recently that the $25 million Healthy Estuaries program, 7 estuaries in the southwest that are most at risk. Again, the challenges facing those estuaries are complex: urbanisation, runoff from agriculture, but one of the big issues again is climate change. There's been quite a bit of media in the last few months about the unprecedented numbers of water deficiency declarations that we've got in WA. I think we've only ever had 2 before. We've got 12 concurrent water deficiency declarations in the Wheatbelt and the Great Southern. So we're carting water not only to those farming communities, but there's a bunch of towns, in addition to those 12 water deficiency declarations, there's a bunch of towns that the Water Corporation is now carting drinking water to. I think the last figure I saw was about $8 million for the water deficiency declaration carting and the Water Corporation's town water supply carting. So it's an enormous amount of resources that we're having to put into dealing with this issue. And we all know the cheapest sort of water that you can have is water that we save. So it's not a matter of going out and building another desal plant or just carting water until the rubber wears off the tyres of the trucks. We have to be smarter, and that's the vision that Fabiana talked about in her introduction. That's the vision that we as the state government want for the southwest of Western Australia. Now, if we're going to do that, we need to collaborate. As I said, the department's doing a great job. The 3 government utilities are doing a great job, but we need to partner with the private sector as well. You know, it's all the good wisdom doesn't reside in the public sector. So that's why I really value the relationship with organisations like the AWA, so that we can really come up with that innovation, come up with that drive, educate the community, importantly. In some ways, dealing with climate change, we've been so successful, people still turn the tap on and water comes out, that the community can think, oh, well, it's a problem, but it's easily solved. The reality is we need the community on board if we're going to continue to be able to make the sometimes difficult decisions to continue on this agenda, if we're ever going to get to that vision that Fabiana talked about in the introduction. So thank you very much for the invitation this morning. Congratulations to everybody who's put this together. I hope those of you down there in Bunbury, I hope it's all working well. I appreciate the work you've put in. Thank you very much. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you.
With you, Peter.
I'd now like to welcome, on behalf of one of our program sponsors, the Water Corp, our CEO, Pat Donovan.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everybody. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we're meeting on, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and I pause and reflect and give my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd just like to thank the AWA for hosting this great event this morning. Start by also acknowledging our Minister for Water, the Honourable Dave Kelly, MLA, the Director General of the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, Mike Rowe, and all the AWA members here in Perth and down in Bunbury. It's a great pleasure for us to be part of this WA water industry breakfast and in conjunction with Mike and the department to be the co-goal sponsors for the event. As we heard from Minister Kelly a moment ago, here in WA we have been experiencing the impacts of climate change for many a long decade, and key to our response in the southwest of our state has been the ongoing partnership and collaboration between the water utilities down there. In the southwest, we experience the effects of climate change like nowhere else on the planet, with reducing rainfall impacting the precious and biodiverse region down there. Added to that, of course, we have the need to provide for the water demands of more people. Increasingly at peak times, with the local tourism industry, which I'm glad to say has now rebounded somewhat from the effects of COVID travel restrictions, and we hope will go on to sustainably grow into the future. Now, while these are undoubtedly challenges to navigate, I'm also really excited by the opportunity that it presents, because I think it is an opportunity for us to drive innovation and collaboration in working together to find new ways to deliver for our customers and for the state, and importantly, to do so in a way that preserves our planet for future generations. And look, one of the greatest attributes of this water industry that I've joined not too long ago is the willingness to share ideas and come together and collaborate. And events like this are a really important testament to that. We know that we can do much more working together than individually, and that's the case certainly in the southwest of our state. We saw the vision from Fabiana, which I thought was fantastic, and indeed increasingly our drinking water schemes are becoming integrated networks that provide security in the face of a drying climate. And now in partnership, we are exploring opportunities to leverage non-potable water for community use, thereby saving our precious drinking water while also making our communities more livable. And I think we talk a lot about COVID, but for me, I think one of the key takeaways was the importance of our local neighbourhood green areas from a mental and physical health perspective that we all kind of come into sharp focus through our COVID restrictions and the lockdown. So I'm looking forward to hearing from our panelists, who I know will speak in more detail about what we're doing individually and collectively in the Southwest. And I'm absolutely delighted that Water Corporation is being represented by our Southwest Regional Manager, John Janssen, or JJ as most of us know him, and you all probably know him professionally and personally. He has dedicated all of his working life to the WA water industry, and after 38 years, JJ is hanging up his boots at the end of this year, and I want to formally and publicly thank him for his contribution to the water industry over his career, and we look forward to farewelling him later on this year. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll look forward to hearing from the panel, and I'll hand you back to Peter. Thank you.
Back to me. Thank you, Pat. And now please welcome our program partner, Dr. Neri Goyal from the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, our Gold Program partner. Please welcome Dr. Nairi.
Thank you, Fabiana, and thank you, Pat, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we are gathering today, the Wadandi Noongar people, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. The department proudly supports the AWA. An engaged and connected water industry is essential to our water future. Partnerships and collaboration between business, academic and non-profit groups, the state's water agencies, water service providers and local government are transforming the way we value and manage water. In setting the tone for today's panel discussion, we are asked to consider the drivers of climate and water use, managing impacts such as deteriorating water quality, including saltwater intrusion and loss of aquifer storage, while still managing to have water for the economy and livability, as well as for ecosystems and amenity. As the Executive Director of Science and Planning at the department, my colleagues incorporate the best water science information and modelling into planning in order to protect and manage water so that Western Australia has secure supplies for households and the economy and for the environment, for biodiversity, recreation and social purposes. Along with tracking how much water we have, what condition it's in, and the allocation of how much can be used sustainably, we work with our regulation colleagues to manage individual licences in the context of the broader community, so we can manage the risks and impacts of land use and industry to freshwater resources and estuaries. Our industry partnerships are already strong, being forged in the common interest of sustainable and resilient water resources to support livable communities under climate change. We have top water service providers, an active irrigation and urban planning sector, and a water industry that provides expertise in wastewater, desalination, hydrology, drainage, urban water management. Together, we can build the solutions that we need. Our recently launched Healthy Estuaries WA program, which builds on the Regional Estuaries Initiative and the Revitalising Geograph Waterways program, shows how the value of strong partnerships, strengthened over the past 3 years, can bring to increasing the awareness of the issues facing our estuaries and connecting people who have a strong interest to help. Estuaries in the southwest are the most heavily impacted estuaries in the state by housing, agriculture, industry, recreation, and the impacts of climate change. The future of effective estuarine and catchment management in the southwest relies heavily on ongoing community support and effective engagement and partnerships between estuary stakeholders. As an example, our ongoing partnership with the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development to reduce nutrient runoff from farms while supporting farm productivity also supports local businesses in the provision of goods and services, including technical services such as soil testing and clay manufacture. Our work on estuaries has shown how defining problems, finding new solutions and taking actions can all occur through regular engagement with the people who value and use our estuaries every day. Over time, we have seen how our partners using the initiative to find new partners, which builds momentum for change. And because of that work, we're on the right path to ensure these valued assets are there to support regional communities and the economies that rely on them. The same is true of the ongoing partnerships to build water-wise cities and communities, of which Director General Mike Rowe will be speaking about soon. Adopting water-wise principles into our cities and communities is a key element of making sure that our communities are livable and that we maximise the use of water for all of its benefits, including the urgent priority of increasing recycling and alternative water supplies as climate and water demand challenge our reliance on groundwater and surface water resources. Once again, thank you for inviting the department and myself to speak to you today, and thank you for listening. I know you'll be very keen to hear what our Director General has to say, and of course, listening to the panel discussion that's ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nairi. And now I'd like to invite our next program partner, Mark Crabtree from Aqwest Bunbury Water. Please, Mark, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Fabiana, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of Aqwest, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri people. I'd also like to thank the AWA for the opportunity to be a partner for this event. It's great to see a regional event focused on integrated water management. For those who don't know me, I'm new to Aqwest and in fact, Western Australia, having recently moved here from Sydney Water. Like many people outside the state, and probably some within it, I didn't realise there were in fact 3 state water corporations in WA. So this is an ideal opportunity to let everyone know, particularly those watching interstate via the live stream, that Aqwest is a water corporation in the southwest of the state, supplying high quality drinking water to 17,000 properties in the city of Bunbury and surrounding areas. For those of you here in Bunbury, the Aqwest product is available for you to enjoy at your table, and I'm sure you'll all agree it's a great tasting water that we should all be proud of. Having been at Aqwest for nearly a year now, the advantage of being a small, nimble organisation is highly apparent. The challenge of trying to get all interested parties in a large organisation to pull in the same direction can be frustrating at times, so it makes a refreshing change to be able to work dynamically. For over 114 years, Aqwest has solely been a drinking water provider, but I think we're in a perfect position to demonstrate to the wider water industry best practice integrated water management on a small scale, which can then be applied more broadly. When you look at the amazing natural environment of the southwest and how lucky the region is to have a pristine source of drinking water from the Yarragadee aquifer, I think we all have a responsibility to use the resource sustainably. Bit squeaky this guy.
It is.
If we work in partnership with our valued stakeholders such as the City of Bunbury, Water Corporation and Dwyer, I believe we can deliver sustainable water initiatives that will benefit the customers and the community. It's pleasing to see this event is so well represented. I'm sure there will be some high quality insight during the panel discussion. So on behalf of Aqwest, I hope you enjoy the morning, and I'll hand back to Fabiana to continue with proceedings.
Thank you, Mark. And we thank again our silver program partner, Herbert Smith Freehills, for your continued support of the AWA Water Industry Breakfast. Our panel discussion is coming up shortly, but before, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Mike Rowe, to the stage. He's the Director General of the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation. And Mark has worked with the Western Australian government in a variety of leadership, policy, advisory, and delivery roles since 1993. His experience spans a number of natural resource management portfolios, such as agriculture, environment and water, as well as Aboriginal affairs and central agencies, including Department of the Premier and Cabinet. And thank you, Mike, also for your continued support to the AWA. So please welcome Mike to the stage.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. Good morning, everybody. And really, my congratulations again to the AWA for innovating so well and bringing this event across multiple locations using terrific technology. It's really excellent to see, and it's a testament to the kind of innovation that goes on in Western Australia's water sector more generally. So thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting here today, the Wurundjeri Noongar people, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. There's several VIPs that I need to acknowledge, not the least of which, of course, is my Minister, the Honourable Dave Kelly, the Minister for Water, Forestry, Innovation and ICT, Science and Youth, Corinne Cheeseman, the CEO of AWA, of course, Fabiana representing our local branch here, and my colleague CEOs and others who are representing the local water utilities, both Water Corporation and more locally here in the Southwest. It really is terrific to see you all. A particular shout out to my excellent staff who are represented in big numbers here this morning, probably because they were told to be here. But I love the work that they do, and I'm very proud of the work that the team do down here in the Southwest region. So thanks very much for being here this morning as well. So I'm sure many have noted that we have had what is probably considered a reasonable start to winter in the Southwest Land Division in regard to rainfall. We look at average rainfall data that's been calculated since 1975 to 2019. This year's May and June rainfall is recorded as average, and in some cases above average at a majority of the 36 key indicator sites that we monitor in the southwest of the state. But as we've heard from every speaker so far this morning, as a reminder of the impacts of climate change that we are experiencing now and into the future, the majority of our sites have recorded below average stream flow for both months despite the rain, with the Denmark River recording its slowest flow start to the year since records began. So as professionals in the water industry, you know and work with this story, less rain means less groundwater and less water in rivers and dams. And this leads to the big question that we're constantly facing: how to keep our water sources sustainable and how to continue to deliver on the water needs that make our communities livable as development continues and demand increases. So we're now facing significant pressures, in particular on groundwater, and specifically from an urban development perspective, we're looking to the local government, service providers and development sectors as partners to find solutions to use water more efficiently while making and maintaining the green spaces amenity our communities really need. The Waterwise Councils program that we jointly work on with the Water Corporation has positively influenced change in our community water use for over a decade in Perth and in regional Western Australia, and continues to do so. I'm really pleased that earlier this month, the Water Minister was able to announce that all of Perth's 32 metropolitan local governments are now participating in the Waterwise Councils program. For our cities and towns to become waterwise and resilient to climate change, this means we need to move beyond just efficiency and conservation and continue to improve how water is managed through water service and land use planning. This is needed if we're to ensure that we have sufficient fit-for-purpose water to meet our potable needs and help keep our parks and ovals green, tackling urban heat, supporting healthy urban lakes and wetlands, and reducing pressures on future water costs. This brave new world, which is consistent with the vision that we heard from Fabiana earlier, challenges traditional methods of water supply, wastewater and drainage infrastructure, and how they might be integrated into water service and development planning to achieve the outcome of the water-sensitive cities model. The department is not a development agency, but we do have a strong role to play in delivering integrated water management in urban development. The Western Australian Government's Waterwise Perth Action Plan, which was launched by Minister Kelly last year, sets the direction for transitioning Perth to a leading waterwise city by 2030. The key driver of the plan is the water that's required to support the development of more than 25,000 hectares of new land and 800,000 new homes through greenfield and infill development, which are expected by 2050. And here's the kicker: all with little or no available groundwater. So the plan adopts a water-sensitive cities approach to urban development that not only reduces water consumption, but captures, transports, cleans and stores water in the landscape for multiple social, economic and environmental health benefits. The Waterwise Perth Action Plan commits to the enhancement and expansion of a range of successful on-ground programs, as we've heard, like Waterwise Councils, while setting in motion the review of our urban water cycle policies that will raise the standard of and remove barriers to waterwise development. This first two-year action plan will make it easier for developers and local governments to engage with the government by reviewing, aligning and streamlining the important water policy framework in areas such as water and land use planning. The involvement of the development and building industries in these policy review processes, along with other stakeholders, will ensure they're both delivered in a way that's easy to use and with a careful eye on commercial and affordability drivers. Last year, under the Waterwise Perth Action Plan, we committed to the action of undertaking detailed water planning in priority areas and delivering integrated water planning at district, catchment or corridor scales to support water service provision, land planning and development in priority areas. So integrated water planning looks at multiple factors, and as we've heard from Fabiana's vision, such as water supply and security, allocation, drainage, water quality, flood risk and alternative water supply sources upfront in the planning process, so that new and infill development takes into account existing water conditions and constraints to support waterwise outcomes in the community and for the environment. So while our regional areas are different from our metropolitan areas, they're no less challenging. In regional areas, the needs of industry and urban areas are often more strongly linked. Regions need jobs where people live, but also quality places to live if we're going to build strong, resilient communities. While there's currently no Waterwise plan specifically for regional areas, the principles are similar, and local governments, developers and water service providers are making good progress. Integrated water management in the southwest of the state is about finding solutions to livability and to creating opportunities that encourage tourists and visitors and secure investment in our regional areas and towns that provide job security. Our department is a partner in growing and servicing the southwest and providing leadership in integrated water management. In recent years, we've facilitated studies to collaboratively identify optimal solutions that provide green space water sources to meet the southwest's high growth areas. Wandju in the Shire of Dardanup is the largest regional greenfield urban development in Western Australia and provides up to 20,000 new homes to accommodate 50,000 people, for which district structure planning is nearing completion. The adjacent proposed Waterloo Industrial Park will deliver land for commercial, light and general industrial uses and has been identified as a suitable agri-food processing precinct. Its close proximity and accessibility to Wandoo, Bunbury Port and the wider southwest region is expected to help create thousands of jobs locally. The department engaged with the service providers and state and local government during development of the Wandoo District Structure Plan to consider water early in the planning, and something that hasn't been done to this level of detail before in Western Australia. This led to the department facilitating a pre-feasibility assessment that focused on options to supply green space irrigation water, taking into account the integrated options that a greenfield site presents. The challenge now is to how ensure this guidance is maintained for the duration of a development that might take 60 years to implement fully. The principles of water-sensitive urban design have also been incorporated to provide opportunities for water reuse. The Collie River and Millers Creek foreshores will be retained and enhanced to act as important ecological, recreational and surface water management corridors. This also assists in protecting Aboriginal heritage associated with the Collie River and the area south of South Western Highway. Due to early water considerations, total water cycle management is promoted in the structure plan to maximise the opportunity for water recycling, reuse and harvesting. In addition, water efficiency measures for both potable and non-potable water use are considered essential to providing fit-for-purpose irrigation water for the reticulation of gardens, public open spaces and sports fields. This work's been really well received by state and local government development agencies and the water servicing industry and sets a new benchmark for how we should be working together to identify local specific, climate resilient water servicing solutions. Good science and good planning at the right scale of development are essential to integrated water management goals. The department's water expertise and its water information resources are available to support waterwise greenfield, brownfield and or infill development. Our work in supporting developers, local governments and service providers in making the best decisions is supported by our work on Streamline WA and the government's one-stop shop, and our partnerships with state agencies, local government and the development industry, including groups like the Australian Water Association and UDIA. So it's really encouraging to see this mammoth task move forward. And for example, at last year's AWA Water Awards, the Shire of Serpentine Jarradale, together with Wallbridge Gilbert Aztec, with support from the department, received the Innovating for Sustainable Water and Environmental Outcomes Award for its integrated water management strategy. This strategy focuses on 4 precincts: Oakford Byford, Albury Mundajong, Hopeland Serpentine Keysbrook and the Jarradale Township, and it identifies innovative initiatives that will provide the best social, environmental and economic outcomes with planned initiatives that include a managed aquifer recharge, sewer mining, a decentralised sewage system development with 100% reuse and integrated flood mitigation. More and more, we're seeing the better alignment of wastewater and drainage infrastructure and the reuse of stormwater and wastewater for non-potable irrigation needs, including through some impressive early innovations in managed aquifer recharge, such as that taking place in Kalamunda, among other places. So the message I want to leave with you today is simple. The more we commit to the path of integrated water management, particularly in the conceptual stages of planning, the better planned and adaptable these innovations will be in supporting our water and livability needs. So thank you again to the AWA for inviting me to speak today. Thank you very much for listening. I know that we're all looking forward very much to hearing from our panellists. And again, congratulations on pulling off this magnificent event. So thanks very much, Fabiana.
Thank you, Mike. That was very insightful to warm us up for the panel. So our panel today is going to explore a holistic approach to urban and rural water management and to apply integrated approach based on collaboration across state, local governments, private sector, as well as service providers, developers, and industries and customers. So the heads of water in the Southwest are going to tell us a little bit about their plans to ensure their region's water security and livability. I would like to start inviting the panel members to the stage, starting with Brad Hamersley, the CEO of Harvey Water. Please come. Brad was appointed to the role of CEO of Harvey Water in May 2017. Bradley, he grew up in Wheatbelt, and before moving to the Southwest in his teens, his career has taken him around Australia before returning home to WA. Hello. Prior to joining Harvey Water, Brad spent 13 years with the construction contractor John Holland. He was the construction manager, and he was responsible for developing bids, PPPs, managing projects across Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and New Zealand. The next to the stage would be Chris Vigus, the General Manager Operations of Busselton Water. Chris brings over 40 years experience as a water industry specialist. His 30-year employment with WA Water Utilities covers the operations, maintenance, construction, project management, and infrastructure planning. Chris, before joining Busselton Water in 2018, he spent 14 years as an engineering consultant, focusing on hydraulic analysis and development of associated software. The next guest to the panel is Gary Hallsworth, the CEO of Aqwest Bunbury Water. Gary has worked in the water industry for more than 25 years in senior roles at the Water Corporation, Harvey Water, and Aqwest. In September last year, Gary was appointed as the CEO of the Aqwest, and he has developed so far several water supply strategies, including the Aqwest Greater Bunbury Integrated Water Management Strategy, which is guiding Aqwest to a new pathway, providing a wider range of sustainable water supplying solutions for the region. The last but not least, John Janssen, famous JJ, Regional Manager, Southwest Regional Water Corporation. I think Pat gave a better background from you, but there you go. John is a practical people-centered leader who has crafted his career from many opportunities and challenges offered by Water Corp. John has worked in many parts of the business and many locations around the state, which has given him a broad understanding of the water. John's passion has always been operations, and he says it cannot get better than being the regional managers in the Southwest. So we are ready for the question number 1. And I just want to remind, we have about 20 minutes to discuss the first questions and more or less 4 minutes each panelist, okay? So could you give us a brief outline of what the organization's 5-year and beyond approach is to ensuring sustainability and resilience in your customers' water supply, the adoption of an integrated water-sensitive approach to the provision of all water services, and working with other water service providers and various involved organizations to supply services and manage water in an integrated and holistic way across the natural and built environment for both existing and new developments. So can we start probably with Brad?
First came off the rank. Thanks,
Yeah.
Fabiana. Well, feel free to hurry him out. Might take a little bit too much time.
Closer.
Sure.
Okay.
Probably something for people to understand. Our business is a little bit different to the other water utilities, and as far as our primary purpose is actually to provide water for agriculture. In saying that, out of our surface water licences, we do have a number of industrial customers and a customer base as well. So our challenge, I guess, is in and around making sure that we use the surface water that we've got very effectively. We are very fortunate here in the Southwest that we have a thriving series of agribusinesses that have been very heavily relied upon during COVID, and probably did do quite a bit for people to sort of understand where their food comes from. Over the next 5-10 years, the outlook in terms of surface water runoff is pretty bleak. So our challenge really is in and around how we use what water we've got effectively so we can continue those businesses to run. The price input for water, as opposed to a potable product for ag, is obviously very, very important. If you look at, I guess, the dairy industry in particular, I think we all know that those guys do struggle when you see you're paying $2 for, effectively 2 litres of milk. It's an absolute challenge. Thus, when we ask our members and the businesses to start putting in water efficiency projects, we need to do that in such a way that we really get bang for buck. In addition to that, we have, I guess, a series of very large mineral processing businesses down here. I mean, South 32 is a good example. It employs 1,500 people. Its top two issues are obviously the price of alumina at this point in time and water management. So they are a large employer, and again, we have a significant challenge in making sure that we provide them with a sustainable source of water as well. So I guess, Fabiana, the challenge for us the next little while is looking at a series of cost-effective water use efficiency projects and how we can do better with a marginal, probably a marginal quality of water in places as well. For example, Wellington Dam, which sits at around 1,500 TDS at some points, it is right on the cusp of being usable.
Thank you, Brad. Chris.
Thanks, Fabiana. Well, starting with the element of resilience and sustainability for a water supply. As been previously mentioned, we have the privilege of having a very high quality drinking water source. The Leederville we use to some extent in the Yarragadee groundwater resource, a highly protected resource, and it sits under our customers' feet, about 200 to 800 metres below our feet. Busselton Waters had about a 100-year journey. So our forebears started that journey by building those bores close to the coast. Now we realise those bores close to the coast are also very close to the saltwater interface. So that raises the question, how sustainable is that journey? So our first step in the next 5 years is to start the migration away from what was okay for the previous 100 years by moving inland and starting the first step towards an inland bore field. We have no treatment plants inland. We have no distribution infrastructure. We've just got a pipeline out to the treatment plant site. In terms of the integrated planning and moving forward in that landscape, we are seeing what's key to that is the monitoring and the modelling of that aquifer. What is the behaviour of that aquifer that's been driven by, we'd say physics, but therefore it's the environment and probably hundreds of thousands of years of rainfall, and more recently, our community's abstraction from that. And now we need to understand how we better manage our operations. Are we drawing from the right rates, from the right bores? Which ones do we need to back off our flow rates because they're too close to that saltwater interface? And the other part of the sustainability of our journey is to reduce our carbon footprint. We really operate one very big automatic pressure booster. Every litre that's going to a customer's right now is pumped. So we see a key part is to shift to variable speed drives and pressure management.
Thank
you.
you.
Leave it there.
Thank you, Chris. Gary.
Thanks, Fabiana. Yeah, we share the same sort of issues as JJ and Chris, being an organisation that draws its water from groundwater primarily. And we already have moved our production, as was spoken about earlier today, inland, and we're pretty excited that we have a new water treatment plant that's in commissioning at the moment. And that's a direct response to dealing with the seawater, freshwater interface problems that will present themselves increasingly as sea level rise occurs and we pump down more of the aquifer. And we're also looking at an integrated water management plan. I think one of the keys to all of this is you must have a plan and you must have a strategy. So Aqwest has been looking at this for a long time, and we have an integrated water management strategy, a lot along the lines of what Mike was talking about just before, that deals with how we see all of the water that's available to us within the greater Bunbury area and how that's best used and put to use, not really whether it's Water Corporation or us or anyone else doing it, but what's the greater good. We're partnering with the City of Bunbury, the Water Corporation, Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, and we note some of the good work that's been done by DWER, especially through Bev and Chris, who are here today, looking at all the non-potable water that is available in the southwest. And I'd like to acknowledge that body of work that those guys have done over a great long period of time, because that's really given us a lot of leverage in our organisation to use that information to go forward with our strategy. So we're looking at doing things that we've never done differently before. We've been a potable water supplier for 114 years. And now we're looking at initiatives in the space of water resource recovery and how we can best serve our community by providing a sustainable outcome for that water use going forward. So we're pretty excited about some of the strategies that we've got to deliver in the future that deal with using and managing the whole of the water that's available to us in a much more sustainable way than perhaps what we have before.
Moving away from linear a little bit to more circular.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. JJ, how about Water Corp?
Thanks, Fabiana. Firstly, thanks to AWA and congratulations on this tremendous initiative. And thanks, Pat, earlier for your kind words. Ensuring sustainability and resilience for customers is really about three things. It's about managing demand, it's about diversifying and integrating water sources, and it's about using the right water for the right purposes. And this needs to be done economically so the community can afford it, because it is a basic health requirement. And this can only happen if we're working in partnership with all of the Southwest region water sector, all levels of government. industry, and of course our community. So we've invested heavily in helping homeowners and business owners reduce their drinking water use, and this continues to be part of our strategy moving forward. And they're very much hands-on activities like retrofitting appliances, resetting reticulation systems, doing water audits and leak detection, and that includes leak detection of our own systems, helping schools install rainwater tanks, and countless direct personalised communications. Many of you that might live in the Greater Bunbury area might have received letters from us helping you track your water usage compared to others in your area. And in fact, one of the highlights of the 7 years that I've been regional manager in the Southwest is getting a letter from myself telling me how good our household was doing. Gary and Chris will agree that the Southwest customers are very receptive to water conservation efforts. And while our population continues to grow over the last decade, our water use in our communities has reduced. The other initiative that I really enjoy is our Waterwise Schools program. So we now have 39 Waterwise schools here in the Southwest, and our kids soak up knowledge about water like sponges. And they take this information back into the home and hopefully into their future when they will be making the important decisions. As mentioned by all the speakers, the effects of drying climates have been acutely felt in some of our traditionally wet standalone Southwest schemes. This has driven investment in robust integrated networks for our communities, enabling us to access the water where it's available and deliver it to where it's needed. For example, in the Warren Blackwood scheme, so from Kirrup right down to Manjimup in the south, that's historically been supplied by dams in most of the towns. It's now supplied by less dams, but with the Yarragadee bore at Nannup. And with the reduction in rainfall over the last 10 years or so, the integration of that groundwater and surface water has allowed us to maintain supply when inflow to the dams is all but stopped, with the bore contributing up to 80% of the water in some years. Also, the Great Southern Towns water supply that starts in Collie, and of course the Wellington Dam was the first source for the Great Southern Towns water supply. It's now Harris Dam that was constructed in the very early 90s. Harris is at the lowest level it's been since its initial fill. But we can now supply the Great Southern Towns, so 40 towns between Collie and Hyden, and many thousands of hectares of farmlands along the way, from Harris Dam, from Stirling Dam, and even if we need to, from the Binningup desal plant. Also, we're very lucky that Gary can send us water from Aqwest to secure supply in Dalyellup, and Chris routinely sends us water from Busselton to secure supply in Dunsborough. So thank you, guys. So it's water where it's needed, when it's needed. And using the right water for the right purpose has to underpin any water strategy and is increasingly important in a drying climate. So there's been a lot of discussion about total water cycle management already, and this will continue to be a growing feature of our water planning over the next 5 years and beyond, and again can only work in partnership with others. We already recycle much of our treated wastewater around the schemes in the Southwest, but there's tremendous opportunity, particularly in Bunbury, to do better. And that involves partnerships from shires, golf courses, Department of Ed, forest products, commercial ventures, and our regulators. And as traditional non-water sources like bore water become constrained and technology continues to become more accessible, it's inevitable that recycling will play a growing part in our approach to sustainable water management.
Thank you, JJ. That's great to hear. So I think we have all the same theme here, right? We have the quality of water deteriorating. We have less water available as well in natural resources. So what do you think it's going to enable to assist your organization to achieve these goals and overcome these challenges? For example, organizational change as a water utility, innovation, technology, changing policy and regulations, the need for the customers to change behaviors, changes on state water resource management framework, service and engineering standards, integrated water management, water sensitive cities approach. So what would be that is going to enable that? So can we start now from Gary? Just because we get
the answer is yes, all of those things.
you can mark.
That's a comprehensive list of things that you put there, Fabiana, and I think that it's not just one solution. There's no silver bullet to what we're doing here. There's no panacea that's going to give us a single outcome. I think it's really deeply involved in partnerships to begin with, and we've talked a lot more about that lately than we have in the past. It's about having plans and good strategies, because sometimes these plans seem a long way away, and also, there's talk today about Wonju and Waterloo, and a lot of people say those things are a long way in the future. But if we don't begin to plan for them now, and we don't understand how we're going to service those areas now, then really we're not going to be able to come up to the mark when the catalyst arrives for those things to happen. Have a look at the way that the housing stimulation has been in the last couple of months since some of the programs have been announced, and yet prior to that, the urban development sector of our business was just about stagnant, and now it's forecast to accelerate rapidly. So things change, and if things are going to change, you need to have a plan ready to go to help you deal with that change. So I think all of that, along with some of the stuff that also Mike talked about earlier too, which is related to policy, and just looking around, having good, strong policy that's going to ensure that the right water solutions are delivered on the ground, and we don't just deliver water solutions that are the most affordable at the time, not taking into account what we're going to need in the future. So I think there's a big combination of all of those things, but for me, it's having a plan and having a goal, and what you want to do. Unlike Fremantle's score on Monday, which didn't produce many goals, and we'd rather have sort of decent outcomes and make sure. Yeah, that wasn't directed at Minister Kelly either, by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And I think planning for things looking they're going to be in the future, not in the past, is key, right? So we cannot plan for Wonju thinking of what happened the last 20 years behind. It's like what's going to happen the 20 years ahead, for example. So Brad, how is Harvey Water dealing with these things? Are you expanding your business reach? Are you doing different things that you didn't used to do before?
Look, we are. I'd probably echo Gary's thoughts. I think planning is very, very important. And one of the things I really am enjoying about the Southwest in recent times is just the collaborative nature of the various agencies. I think the new fellow at Aqwest, apologies, I've forgotten your name, said he came from Sydney Water before, where these large agencies do have quite a reach. So it's very important that we do work together, and the maturity in the conversation is very good. There's actually not a lot of competition between us, which I find is great. I'm personally going to, John, I think that pun about soaking up all the knowledge probably passed the room, but I'm going to miss those after your 38 years of service, I have to say.
Yeah, copyrights.
Copyrights on that one, yes. But look, we are doing things differently, and I guess the other thing that has really changed in the landscape, Fabiana, is just the economics of water. People do really put a great deal of value on this stuff now, certainly much more than what they once did. And that combined, I guess, with the technology becoming more affordable in the water treatment space, I think will open up some options. Years ago, you'd look at a brackish water source and say, well, why bother? We'll just sink another bore. But now, I mean, there's examples of great projects. Sundrop Farms in South Australia, when I worked on before I left John Hall, they're using seawater to grow a vegetable crop. So I think the economics and regulation will really change the game.
That's good. Thank you, Brad. Chris, and about Busselton water, do you think beyond looking for better water, is there any plan to look for more circular or for different types of water, or is just going to be focused on finding better groundwater?
The short-term answer to that is, we're not yet in the circular economy. We have a very strong passion for being a more diverse organisation. We look at opportunities which are predominantly small new land developments that would enable us to get into the non-potable, get into the wastewater. That's where we'd like to go. The opportunity has to come along and everything has to come together. Unfortunately, we didn't end up being the operator and the licence holder for Witchcliff Eco Village. Would have loved to. Yeah. So you can see our our desires and aspirations in that, but we have to recognise at this point in time, we're a very localised drinking water supply. The enablers that we see in the short term in that space are very much around innovation and technology. The innovation is going to be both internally and I think with our customers. We're going to have to walk with our customers on a journey and bring them along for the benefit of West Australians and probably every human on this planet. We need to do some things which are different. Whether they're improvements or innovation, I'll let everyone debate till the cows come home. So for us, yes, I've already mentioned, we're starting that step inland. So internally we have to, so we've got to progressively over probably a 40 to maybe even 100-year journey, move to a different model of thinking and where we have a water resource. Technology in the forefront of us and the sustainability, we can change our carbon footprint very much by adopting variable speed drives. And by Christmas time of this year, hopefully I'll have 15 of them ready to turn on. We're in a very privileged position that once I put 13 of those on a commission, I can do this at any time of the day and any day to manage both the energy we use and the level of supply we give to our customers. So parts of the Water Corporation have already gone down that journey of pressure management and walked with their customers, and we'll follow a similar journey with our residential customers. It will probably, my garden irrigation doesn't spread as far. Well, we'll have a journey. Maybe if you change your way to more water-wise, slower heads in your sprinklers, or your part company, and you don't blow as much water down the street and on the bitumen and mist. End goal achieved. That will be a negotiated journey. I think we're also coming to understand also fire services on significant commercial industrial property is a key subject. We are likely to have many of our customers say, we went and did a hydrant test out in the street under a certain condition. It's a bit like us getting a pressure gauge from Bunnings or a, you know, irrigation company X. I go and do a test. Yeah, and it's a nice spring day. I'm doing a test and this is the flow and the pressure I got. So I designed for that. It's not February on Australia Day in Busselton with everyone in town and the lowest pressure in town. We're going to go through a similar journey with our commercial customers. And in that landscape, saying we potentially, and in the interests of everyone on this planet, it's not sensible for us to every moment of the day hold a high pressure in the system when it's not needed and there are no fires anywhere in Busselton. It's potentially more carbon friendly, energy efficient for you to have some storage tanks and your own pumps, and they only consume energy if there is a fire.
That's interesting.
It's going to be a massive journey. An interesting one.
John.
Fabiana, it's clear that that customer and government expectations around water services are changing. I think we've done a collective tremendous job at providing safe, reliable water services to the southwest of WA, and that's now a given. And I think the customers and government, and rightly, expect more from us in terms of innovation and collaboration. The community is now very aware of water scarcity, and I think what's happening in the Great Southern now is really bringing that home in terms of the water scarcity in our wheat belt. And there's an ever-increasing expectation that solutions will become sustainable, both environmentally and economically. I think there's an equal expectation that these things are balanced with the needs to cater for growth here in the southwest, as Gary mentioned, and in particular a growing tourism industry across the southwest, and probably doubly now that no one's allowed out of the state. So we're getting a good share, which is great. And I think we're also seeing the community place a higher importance on the amenity of our water service assets. In particular, what more can they be used for than their primary purpose? Things like our drainage corridors, our assets. So as community expectations shift, government policy and regulation does too. And we've seen that with the introduction of the ombudsman process in the water industry and government investment in water-sensitive urban design. So in that context of all this, partnership and collaboration is the key. And it's really, as been mentioned earlier, is to achieve our mutual objectives. And it's the mutual objectives of the community. So the framework that was developed by the Cooperative Research Centre for Water Sensitive Cities points to 5 enablers. And this is also applicable here. So there's a need for champions. So we now have these in government, in the utilities, and they've always occurred in the community. We need platforms for connecting. And that's things like our technical advisory groups, our joint utilities, our regular discussions we have with our regulators. They're all in place, but there's potentially the opportunity to consolidate and refresh these. Knowledge. So significant amount of knowledge in the organisations across the Southwest, including the irrigator cooperatives, utilities, regulators. Really active community organisation and councils, like our catchment councils, and industry. We need projects and applications. And I think there's, in the near future, there's going to be some very exciting projects I think we'll see in the water industry in the Southwest. But much more is needed. And the last one is tools and instruments, and that includes technology. Now, without a doubt, in the last couple of decades, water technologies around things like water treatment and energy recovery for water have leaped forward. And continued innovation will only lead to more innovative integrated solutions in the future. But these are economically challenging times, and it is really imperative that we work together to find the innovative solutions that don't require a huge investment, and I think that's our challenge.
Yeah, I think collaboration is a really key point there, and I know it's because I work across all of your organizations, sometimes they behave as competitors, but they are not competitors. They all have one goal, which is provide water to people forever, kind of that, right? So if you can get a forum and work together on some of the challenges and help each other as it's happening, I know now with Aqwest and Water Corp, I think it's amazing. It's a great work. So on the back of that, John, can you please share a key initiative or change that, that make you really proud of that's happening at Water Corp to secure resilience and livability?
Yeah, thanks, Fabiana.
That's question 3.
Look, I'm really proud of all the people that we have in the water industry in the Southwest, and I guess that's not just Water Corp, but it's also all of the other 2 water corporations and also Harvey Water. These people are out there every day and every night. For us in the Water Corp, they're operating 40 water schemes and 25 wastewater schemes, plus a few thousand kilometres of rural drainage and flood protection assets. Now, some of the towns with extreme peaking issues, as Chris mentioned, like Busselton, Dunsborough, Margaret River, and in other towns where it's basically just decided to stop raining, and all of them in the very sensitive biodiversity hotspot of the Southwest. So as well as that, I did want to share that we're really proud of the partnering with a range of community, commercial, government organisations through our regional livability program. So this program is relatively low key, but it's aimed at supporting communities' expectations around sustainability and amenity of our operations and our assets. So basically it's a targeted approach to achieving shared objectives with the communities that we operate in. Many of these involve rural drainage because of the sheer physical presence of them, and particularly the potential to help or hinder environmental water quality objectives. Now, to just name a few of the initiatives that we've been through. So we've done a lot of partnering with DWER in works on the vast diversion drain enhancement project, as well as various water quality enhancement trials within the drainage network. And we have a really tremendous relationship with Adam's team, and particularly down in Busso with Dr Kath Lynch and Bev here in Bunbury. Partnering with developers and Geocache to create water efficiency habitat areas at one of our wastewater pump stations in Dunsborough. recreational enhancements to tie in with the Shire of Collie and government's objectives at Harris Dam. Small things like establishing a possum bridge over one of our drains in partnership with the Southwest Catchment Council and DVCA, and installation of possum boxes in the Geograph region in consultation and participation with the Busselton's Men's Shed and the Dunsborough Busselton Wildlife Carers Group. So wherever possible, we try and support these initiatives to achieve multiple objectives. And certainly we try to achieve that at a relatively neutral cost where possible. And a really good example of this is at Beela Dam. So Beela is at the back of Brunswick. For those that don't know, it's the original water source for Brunswick Junction. No longer utilised, but still exists. And we work there with a local company called Indigenous Workabout, the Lashnault Men's Shed and the Lashnault Catchment Council. And we had issues with cotton bush and feral pigs and general weed management in that area. So the trainees from Indigenous Workabout installed the possum box that were created by the Men's Shed. They did some weed eradication, they collected seeds, they controlled the feral animals, and they rehabilitated the area. And this work supported the trainees obtaining a qualification in land management. And we did all this for about the same costs that we would have normally spent on hiring a spraying contractor. So the opportunities are endless, and they don't have to be big. But in that mix, I think is the step change opportunities that we need to take together to achieve the type of change that we need to see as our environment changes.
It's good to see that you're engaging community and the Men's Shed and the Aboriginals all in the same direction, and the children, right? It's beautiful. Thanks, John. Now, Gary, what can you tell us about what's boiling in your kitchen?
Yeah, look, I'm extremely proud that our organisation, after trying for many years, has delivered a whole new water treatment plant for Bunbury that will probably be there for the next 50 to 80 years. And it's not easy to do that. We talked about the economic constraints earlier that JJ was talking about, but we've managed to be able to do that. And that's largely with a board of directors, and we have some of our directors that are here today. Those people are appointed by the Minister to drive what it is that we do in terms of our strategy. And I must say that the dedication of some of these people from the community is just an enormous thing to have. You've got people from your community that are sitting on your board, and they're helping to shape the direction of where you go. So to achieve something like that, and there's even ex-board directors here today as well that started some of these processes for us, and they take a long time to come to fruition. So having that support through the board is really important for us, but also for them to create the vision. So to agree that integrated water management is our board's direction at the moment, is to pursue projects in that space is really interesting for us. And to have a really strong strategy for delivering those projects as well is something that I'm particularly proud of for our organisation, because we've done a great job of 114 years worth of potable water supply to the Bunbury area. We've done a great job of securing the assets that we have. We've fixed our leaking reservoirs, we fix our leaking pipes, but we also do other things like engage with the community as well. We use the guys from Active Industries to maintain all of our grounds around Bunbury, and we provide opportunities for people in that space that normally wouldn't be provided in the community. So, looking at all of those range of things that we do, there's a big process at looking at our new water treatment plant and its connection to land and water and the Aboriginal culture that goes with that at the moment that we're engaging in. It's a big engagement piece on trying to work out, what that water, what that land meant to the Aboriginal culture around here, and try to bring some significance and some connection between those sorts of things. So I guess, again, like I said before, Fabiana, it's a range of things that make it really exciting to be in the water industry at the moment. And not just one of those, but each part of that will form those collaborations. But especially embarking on looking at opportunities to provide fit for purpose water in the Bunbury area is a big one for us at the moment, and we're heavily engaged with a number of people, including Water Corporation, Main Roads, the whole lot, in terms of what we can do in that space. So there's some real opportunity there, I think, to go forward and to build on the great experience that we already have, to build on the great support we get from our minister and from our board, and take those things to fruition. We really only have, I mean, if you look at what Bunbury has, if you deplete the Yarragadee aquifer, where do you get your water from? Because I can't go up the road and ask Brad to give me some from Wellington Dam because he told you that it's not fit for drinking already. We can't go up the road to the Binning Up desal plant because it's already oversubscribed. So if we don't manage the Yarragadee aquifer, where's the next source going to come from? And if you ask yourself that question, the avoided cost in investing in water reuse in Bunbury right now to prevent oversubscription on the Yarragadee aquifer is far less than the alternative. You know, the alternative could be to take a pipeline all the way to Harvey Dam.
Yeah, or get a new desal here.
Or try and build another new desal plant. Yeah. So it's really about looking at what we do have and understanding all of the water that's available within that area and working with everybody that's using that water together as one group. I had the guys from City of Bunbury over the other day talking about exactly that, you know. There's vast lands of public open space in Bunbury, and we all want that to be green, and the city have a greening strategy that they're working on at the moment. So we're working with them to try to get a fit-for-purpose water source to those playing fields. It's outcomes like that in the community where, you know, we can all go and have a game of cricket and do things like that, and, you know, enjoy that public open space and that amenity while we preserve that water source. Because of the rising sea level in Bunbury, and we've been monitoring that for the last 15 years and looking at how that works, we need to make sure that, you know, we're not doing any more damage to that water source. That is, you know, it's a cliche, but it's the most precious thing that we've got. And the avoided cost in using some of these more fit-for-purpose water outcomes is much greater than what the investment now will be. So it's about having the vision, really, of what that overall cost is going to be and not worrying about the bottom line right now at the minute, although the economics is important.
Yeah, I've seen a quantum leap at Aqwest since you stepped up as a CEO, and the conversation between Gavin, the City of Bunbury, and Aqwest before was like a competition by water allocation. I want more allocation, and that moved on into how can we solve this problem, which is having green public open spaces with safe, fit-for-purpose water. And seeing that you guys are working together is really great. You know, it is few months, and the change is massive. It's impressive. Congratulations on that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So continuing the order. So we have the VSDs happening in Busselton. And is there anything like trying to put turbines in the pipes or anything else to recover more energy as the focus is in lowering carbon?
The answer to that is no at this point in time.
Okay, yeah.
Can I pick up on John's topic of partnering and cooperation between the utilities and other players in the water industry? And can I start by being weird and talking about basketball?
You can.
Because it's related to the key initiative that's going on in our space and that will last for decades. So, many, many moons ago, I was silly enough to put my hand up to be in junior sport to be a basketball coach. That silliness lasted for 9 years. I'm rather proud of, for 9 of those years, a team got in the grand final. We only won one. But in that journey, we had the privilege, and being a mad basketball fan, of watching the Wildcats. And it was in a season when the Wildcats could not buy a game. It was going back decades ago. And they brought in the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers from America, and they started winning all their games. So we, all the fans, saw that transition. So on the Sunday at the end of that week, I had the opportunity to talk to the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers and said, what did you do and what did you tell them? I said, I just told them one simple thing to all the players. Your job when you go out on that court is to do your best to enable all the other players to play at their best. You know what happens when you do that? You find you've got 4 people making you play at your best. So that's the weird bit.
That's really good.
Key initiative in our world is the development of a 3-dimensional computer model of our patch, of the Yarragee, Leederville and the superficial aquifers. So in our patch, if the engineers in the room or the scientists, that means you're going to build a finite element model of a thing which is about, in our case, a slice which is 20 kilometres wide, probably 25 kilometres north to south and 1 kilometre deep. To say it's complicated is an underestimation of the issue. Why it's such a key initiative? Because it informs all the players of, rather than the utility making uninformed judgments about our turning on of pumps and quantity for bores, we can see we're informed of what our actions and our strategies in the future, and we've been able to make an informed prediction for the next 30 years. And the era of enlightenment, we actually have to make some changes to how we operate a few bores. Tip, likewise, the regulator can see what is our impact on that part of the world. So it's key because it's a block of informed shared knowledge. Why am I proud of it? Because all I had to do was fund the exercise and walk alongside a group of experts that went out onto the court, and I saw them do their very best to make everyone else, me included, perform at our best. So I saw Martin from Rockwater do the hard yakkers. I saw Anya and Rob from Dewar bring everything they could to this exercise. And for Dewar, I had a timing imperative that was faster than their normal schedule work. I saw them walk out on the basketball court and perform at their absolute best. And they, in this context, they won the grand final.
That's a great story. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. And Brad, how about Harvey Water? There is lots of things around going there, right? The Wellington Dam Mile project, the improving the quality of water in an affordable way. So from those things happening, I remember you moved on from open channel water transportation into pipes transportation. So with all these things going on, what is the one that you really picked to make you really proud of what you guys are doing?
Well, I've got two directors in the room, and they'll want me to say, get my Wellington project finished.
Where are you guys?
That's been, they're hiding over there somewhere. It's been a bit of a journey, and we've got a little bit of work to do before we get there. But I guess the maturity of the industry and also our organisation, I think, has been quite pleasing for me to see over the last 3 years. Particularly, I guess, Kemet Industrial Park, which has been operational now for 30 odd years without a dedicated water supply. We're able to put one in for $588,000, which, you know, supplied 3 GL of water to that park. It's not big. But in terms of, you know, the economic multiplier out of that, we've now got Albemarle building the biggest lithium plant in the Southern Hemisphere. So I think, you know, it's that long-term planning vision, but also the conversations that have taken place to do that, because it's got a range of different facets to it. And I've received support from John, from Mick, from Mike, from Richard, and many other people in this room to effectively make that happen. The Southwest will be stronger as a result.
I agree, yeah. Yeah, you have really good people working for you. They're very passionate, and they call me and say, Fabiana, how can we do that better and cheaper? And I said, wow, can you choose one?
It's probably because I've asked them the same question, Fabiana.
Exactly, yeah. And they are being calling me a lot. I can say it's really good to see there is movement. It's just beyond the business as usual, right? And moving to the future. That's great. So now I have time to open for all of you to ask questions. And unfortunately, we have a COVID policy. We cannot have a microphone. So please fill up your lungs. Yeah. Speak very loud when you want to talk. I cannot see. So who wants to start? If you don't start, I'll choose someone. Gavin, you want to offer a perspective of City of Bunbury experience on all this water thing?
Well, City of Bunbury, I suppose our big issue is we're 100% allocated with our water resources. So we've got a community that wants to expand. We've got some heat mapping shows we've got some problem areas, and we've got a green strategy that the community wants to see. So water becomes our blocking from being able to undertake those activities for our community. So it's become a critical issue for the council, and I suppose that's why we're working in partnership to try and find a solution that's acceptable to all parties and actually allow Bunbury to continue to prosper and grow.
Oh, that's good. And you have any questions to the panel?
No, not this stage. Thank you.
That's okay. I know that the people from the Bunbury Outer Ring Sustainable Alliance are in the room, and do you want some question from that side there, the guys in the back? And Donis, you're not that quiet normally. Okay, there we have a volunteer. Sorry, I cannot see who you are.
And how deeper? Simple question. How would you evaluate the customer's willingness to pay for all these wonderful innovations?
Who wants to take that?
It's a good question, Ed. I think what you've got to do is look back to education first of all, because I'm not sure what the customer's willingness to pay would be if they didn't know what the avoided costs were that we were talking about before. So I think the first place you start with understanding that is education and making sure that we can get the community to better understand what it is that the alternative is in terms of the willingness to pay. And I think when you look at those things, then the balance becomes much more than what that initial bottom line is. So if the question is that, you know, groundwater is cheaper than recycled water, then perhaps it's not if you look at it from the long-term point of view. And then perhaps if customers understood that, then they would support it wholeheartedly, that would be the best outcome in the long term. So it's probably about education as far as I'd suggest.
I'd probably agree, and I'll maybe refer to an example of a job I tendered but didn't win, which is the Melbourne desal plant, where, you know, very, very large plant, wasn't a great success from a construction point of view. And ultimately, once it was commissioned, it probably then started to rain unseasonably for the next 3 years and sat around mothballed, as can happen from time to time. As it happens. But what Melbourne Water did in that particular case is they were very open and transparent around the price impact of putting in that piece of infrastructure, as well as explaining just the criticality of their water supply. And it even got to a point where I recall getting my very large bill from Melbourne Water, and basically it actually broke down the cost contribution to the desal plant, so people could actually see. And the language changed. I mean, it was I can't remember the exact number, it's well north of $3 billion to build, but people sort of understand that they didn't really have a choice but to invest in technology.
Mm.
Yeah, it's that conversation around water literacy, I think, that I know the minister's quite keen on at the moment, is just improving that water literacy in the community. You know, we spent a fair bit of time late last year and early this year trying to get our community to come and talk to us in a customer advisory panel, and guess what? You know, we're just the invisible water corporations in some respects. People just expect that water will come out of their tap 24/7 at a good pressure and the bill won't be very high. And then that's about it. So that engagement piece is a really difficult one, because I think it's probably because we do a bloody good job and no one notices what goes on until the water goes off, which doesn't happen very often. I think when it comes time to pay your Foxtel and your mobile bill, then, you know, those start to, you know, loom pretty heavily. But when you go and have a look at the price of your water bill in comparison to that, nobody's really putting a focus on water, because it's not one of the things that's hurting their hip pocket. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's just the toilet flushes every morning. Heaven forbid if it didn't.
Yeah. And out there, go John, please.
I was just going to say in answer to it, I think it's also, we need to have mechanisms of dialogue with the community. And other than our 1313, 75 and 85 numbers. And we also need to be having that dialogue in the places where they're having the dialogue. So social media, we need to have, work very heavily on things like customer insights and understanding expectations. And it's a very slow burn. And as Gary said, you can sometimes ask for customer feedback and you just get crickets. So we have to work very hard, as an industry, to make sure that we provide the mechanisms that allow customers to communicate with us in forms that they feel comfortable.
Chris.
And I'd contribute a little bit that I picked up from our Ozwater 2020 conference. There was a presentation by Western Water, which Brad would probably confirm they're on the rural western fringe of Melbourne. So they are making the point they are the third cheapest price per kilolitre in Australia.
And you're the cheapest.
And we got my attention immediately. We're either the second or the first cheapest. That may not be a good place to be. What their paper was about is they're doing some research on the affordability of water by looking at the demographics of their customers, the economy of their customers, so their ability to pay. And it's a bit like saying, yes, they're potentially paying and forwarding a lot more for their phone bill than they are for water. So if we were to raise and had a need to, and I think if you're the first, second or third cheapest in the country, maybe you do have a need.
Yeah.
You may not have landed in that position intentionally.
I agree.
Or
but that's where the regulator
perfection.
comes in place, right?
Yeah, so I think it's not just about educating the customers. You need to understand the economy of your customers. What are the groups in your customer base? What can they justifiably afford?
Yeah,
I think it speaks back, Fabiana, to Ed's question as well. You know, that we talked before about what sort of policy and what sort of drivers are going to be needed for this, and you know, it's probably fair to say that the Economic Regulation Authority could probably just take a look at the Essential Services Commission in Victoria, because that's exactly the way they're pricing water. They're having the conversation with the community, they're getting the community's expectations, and then they're driving their investment through that, which is a very different model than what we're working on now. One that relies on the weighted average cost of capital, which right at the minute is about zero. So
yeah.
There's some work to do in that space.
And also a hidden role from the utilities is to provide profits back to the government, right? So how about that money stays for innovation purposes instead of going back to other things, right? And yeah, because we cannot keep moving. That's a good idea. We cannot keep moving boards around. And
I think I'm actually the only person who can offer any comment.
There's no answer to that from this table. Not today.
Not today.
You want to keep your jobs, I know. Anybody else wants to? Oh, there. Sorry, can it, Paul?
Yeah, Paul was as an engineer at DB Walsh. As a practical person and an engineer myself, I've always found the gravity and the curvature of the earth doesn't work really well. And something that always concerns me is that in the southwest especially, we have a lot of rain in winter. And although we need a lot of rain in winter, it's also the time that non-potable producers like we are have a problem with getting rid of non-potable water. Have you got any thoughts on how to create infrastructure to store non-potable waters, whether that be with investigating recharging into appropriate receptacles, maybe non-potable dams, but especially your thoughts going into
Yeah, our integrated water management strategy looks at all of the options for Bunbury, including managed aquifer recharge. I'm not sure about the product that you have out there at VMV Walsh, but you know, I'd imagine that there's some serious health parameters that need to be looked at to handle that product. But look, certainly those innovations and what Water Corporation are doing at Beanie Up and some of the technologies that are being proven at the moment, I don't think it'll be far away from the time when you can actually logically explore those things at a reasonable economic cost. The technologies are advancing and developing all the time. So that's the collaborative nature of what everybody's doing as well, is that the more effort that we put into these things, the sooner these solutions will come on board. I don't have a solution for what you might do with that surplus water there right now, but I'm sure that if you come and have a chat with us next week, we'll put our heads together and see if we can wrap it into part of some of the solutions that we're working on at the moment. But it's a little bit like, you know, smart water meters. I mean, everybody thinks that smart water meters should be on every property in Australia, right? Because they make good sense. And once that hits a price point, I think, and the rest of the industry starts getting behind it, then it will happen. But it's just a matter of getting it to that tipping point. And I think the technologies to treat the water that you're talking about aren't that far away either. And you know, it's a bit of a game of watch this space.
I might add to that, Gary, because there is actually quite a piece of work happening in that space at this point, probably not over near VMV Walsh, but in other areas where that beneficial runoff is being put to good use, trials are being considered, etc. In our business, we do get quite a bit of runoff in some of our open channels. And a lot of, I guess, the mineral processing guys who have very large storage dams choose to top up at that time of year. Could we do more? I think, yes, certainly. certainly.
I'm receiving some questions from outside here, but I think there is a parallel discussion happening on Zoom. So Peter Moore has asked that, what's the impact of the current infrastructure? And we need to rethink the collaboration on recycling water to optimize a long-term infrastructure. So how best to engage all the key stakeholders to achieve more sustainable outcomes? How best to get out of organization silos and size a strategic opportunity? That comes from Peter Moore from Perth. Did you get that?
I think I got it.
So it's how do we make sure we work outside the silos of our own business?
Yeah, because you're going to have infrastructure interfaces.
Yeah,
right?
and I think that's very relevant for us in the Greater Bunbury area, where certainly from an Aqwest perspective and a water corporation perspective, we don't want to be tripping over each other. And so our ultimate objective has to be to put the right infrastructure in the right place. Who actually operates and runs that doesn't really matter. It's about making sure that we optimise what's best for the community and best for sustainable and reliable water supply. And as long as we remain mature enough to continue to do that, I think we'll continue to deliver good results.
It's interesting that Peter was one of the big supporters of the Joint Utilities Group when he was back with Water Corporation. So, you know, it's through forums like that that we're keen to sort of have those conversations as well, where we did have an industry that was fostering each other's knowledge through those sort of mechanisms.
And Fabiana, the example that Brad mentioned, which was Kemerton, so that's been an issue for a long time. And there's an opportunity through not Aqwest and not the Water Corporation to provide a solution which satisfies the customer's requirement. And I think for us to be able to facilitate that, to allow the outcome to be achieved is what we should be all striving for.
We're probably in an era where we, the water industry, need to recognise that one of the silos is the power industry and the power generation. And we are one of the biggest consumers of electricity or energy.
Yeah.
And if my peers are anything like us, we're heading towards more renewable energy. And I know we're looking at that Plant 8, and one of the considerations, what's the right step forward for renewable energy? At this stage, the economics saying it's photovoltaics, grid connected. Storage is not yet cheap enough, but watch that space. But the biggest factor on whether we put in a fairly big photovoltaic farm or a modest one is whether the energy industry would offer a tariff or not. Very strong silo. The commercial imperatives would say, go away, Chris. It's against our business model and not against our interests. So there has to be there's potentially a better answer between my partisan view of my two extremes. There may well be a better state-based or collaborative silos answer, which is in the middle.
Yeah, and in many places in the world, they produce power and water together. So they, cool down the turbines with water.
Absolutely.
Here, that's a no-go zone right now.
It is a no-go zone, but
why?
When there's a lot of dirt in between places that Horizon Power visit and Water Corporation visit and then it makes some efficiency sense.
Brad, do you want to make a comment? And there is also a question here about why do you think the Wellington Dam is not going forward at the moment, and what are the strategies that are in place to address this?
I knew someone would ask that. Look, so basically the proponent has a number of conditions that they need to achieve before the project progresses. So I guess from our point of view, it's just been quite a tortuous and extended process. So we hope that'll get to finality in the next little while.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else in the ground here on the floor? Please. Can you speak a bit louder, please?
I guess the question I have, or even a comment, is we talked a lot about innovation, which is wonderful, and as a process engineer, basically, I'm always looking at that front end. But I think that at times we should be looking at more at the back end of the delivery of a project and how that impacts on design. For example, if you're going to have an asset that's going to spend the last 20 years just on something you just touched on there, Brad, probably desal plant for one demo that's meant to be about a 12-year life. Why would you build a plant, typical water court plant costs $10 million and they leave it today? You can get a very good second-hand desal plant that's been running for 6 months in Europe in excellent condition that'll cost you $1 million to $2 million a megaliter a day. So I think we need to think about those kind of things as well. It's a very practical way of looking, as our friend said before, that it's not just that front-end innovation, but it's the innovation of delivery and really looking at the fit for purpose and how can we be smart, because we only got so much money to go around. And I often see projects that fall over because people have been using the same approach in their pricing, their standard equipment. You don't have to, you certainly don't have to lower the standard of equipment that you're supplying. You just got to be a bit smarter about where you get it from and what you use.
And including funding, right? Sometimes private sector are keen to invest in these kind of projects, and we need to be open to those different business models.
I'd be going way off topic if I even started to address this, because it necessitates an overhaul of the contracting industry more broadly. But look, I agree, we need to constantly challenge our specifications and we need to challenge commercial arrangements that sit behind it, because a lot of that thinking, Rob, is driven by designers' PI. I have a general view that we're seeing a resurgence of European contractors here who will bring a very different commercial approach to Australia, and I'll welcome some of that change.
Anybody else on the floor here? Okay. Not there, sorry. Please.
Yeah, I'm just interested to hear more about the work being done in the wastewater reuse space and the key opportunities that you see there, more short term, and some of the work being done to drive policy and overcome barriers in that space.
That must be me.
Must be me.
I think it's you.
So both of you think.
No, so it's a good question, because we produce around about 10 gigalitres of treated wastewater annually from our plants in the southwest. 29% of that is currently recycled to parks, ovals, tree lots, etc. Around about 40% of it is discharged through our ocean outlet here in Bunbury. So that's a tremendous opportunity. In Busselton, it's a seasonal thing. We have a really good reuse scheme with particularly the golf course in Busselton. But in the winter months, when there's no need for treated wastewater for watering ovals and golf courses, etc., it's released to the environment. So there's potentially around 70% or 7 gigalitres of treated wastewater in our 25 plants that has that opportunity. Now, it does come with constraints though, and the very strong regulation around treated wastewater, both from a health perspective, health of the community, and health of the environment perspective, and that needs to be balanced. So unfortunately, the days of things being pretty well free and not requiring any effort are long gone. And again, it's that balance between finding the right quality water in the right place for the right purpose. And I think once we get those three things lined up, then it becomes more obvious about whether it's a good value proposition for our community or not. But it is a tremendous resource that I know the Water Corporation and also the other utilities, all of us here are very passionate about reducing the amount of discharge to the environment and making sure that we close the loop on that water cycle and use our water more than once.
Yeah, I'll just comment there too. I think that's the most relevant point, John, that what we tend to do as water providers at Aqwest is take water up out of the ground and we do things with it and treat it and push it around into pipes and then we sell it to people. And it's at that point we lose custodianship of that water. And I think some of our initiatives are around going back and grabbing that water and trying to bring it back for other use, because again, we get to substitute the use that we have from the groundwater and avoid much greater cost later on in the future. So, you know, it's really about understanding your role as a water provider, and that, you know, you do have some responsibility. I don't think you can just pull it out of the ground and sell it to somebody and then end your relationship with the product. I think it's about going back and finding out where that water's going and what else you can do with it.
Okay, guys, it's time for us to wrap up the discussions today. Well, we're going to still head back to Perth via video conference. But I think what we heard today here, that everyone is a stakeholder when it comes to integrated water management, right? It's not only about the utilities to drive that. It's about the private sector, like Paul stand up there. It's about other sectors of society, like the main roads and what's happening around the Bunbury Outer Ring. It's about local government also standing up and saying, hey, I want that wastewater here. And all of us working together and connecting all these things, right? And then moving forward, because the momentum is there, the technology is there, and we need that. We cannot sit and wait. Thank you very much. It was a really nice discussion. I'm going now to pass the word to Peter Spencer in Perth. He's our new incoming branch president. Congratulations, Peter, and welcome. Garth Walter is our new vice president. He's sitting just here to say hi. So, Peter, you can, is with you now.
Wait till I'm on, I guess. Oh, okay.
It's you.
Thank you, Fabiana. And look, a special thank you to Fabiana for hosting what has been a tremendous session. I think we've all got a lot out of it. So I'd probably extend into the thank yous to make this event such a great event that it was, and very engaging. First to our Minister, the Honourable Dave Kelly, and Director General of Department of Water and Environment Regulation, Mike Rowe, for their keynote speakers. Thank you. Thanks to our panel. I think that, you know, the panel discussion was definitely a highlight for me. So thanks, Brad, Chris, Gary, and John, for your insights. It was really good to hear that the diverse opinions from across the region from you gentlemen. Thank you very much. And probably finally in the thank yous, and quite importantly, the organising committee. This has been a real challenge for us in the AWA. It's quite a unique event. We've not delivered one like this before, and we've got the eyes of the rest of the association around the country watching how it went. So I want to particularly thank Cristiano Caravello, Lisa Chan, Don Crawford, Sharon McNeil, Peter Moore, Fabiana Tessele, Blair Shackleton, Bradley Shand, and Kylie Whitehead, our state manager. They've all put in a tremendous effort to bring this together, and I think it's worked really well. So thank you. You never get away from an association event without a bit of a plug. I have to mention our awards. We've opened up our annual water awards for 2020. So nominations are open. I encourage you to put your thinking hats on. It's a time for us to celebrate what the industry can do, some of the good stuff we've done. I'd like to highlight a few tweaks to our award categories this year. The Infrastructure Project Innovation Award, we have split into a metro and a regional to help so that some of those smaller, unique regional projects aren't trying to compete against some of the big glossy metro projects. So there's categories for both now. So no excuses for all you regional players. Please put your hats on, think about what you might be able to nominate. There's also been a change to what was around programs. We've called it Organisational Excellence Award. So trying to look at the initiatives or activities that we're doing, getting away from perhaps the big shiny things that we build, and looking at what we're doing organisationally within our businesses and the like that's improving the space for water. So yeah, nominations close on the 31st of August. Please put your thinking hats on, and we'd love to see some nominations from you all. And finally, just a piece around where the association is going, and particularly where I see the WA branch for the next period. I have to say I'm starting on the shoulders of Rachel Evans, who's been president for the last couple of years and has really built a great committee and a great active association here in Western Australia, and I hope to continue that. And as you can see from our value proposition of in the Water Corp of share, connect and inspire. That's what we're really about. We're wanting to engage more broadly, strengthen our partnerships. A case in point is that we've been working through the year with the Environment Institute of Australia and New Zealand and the Environmental Consultants Association to look at doing a symposium on inland waterways. Unfortunately, the COVID lockdown has slowed us down a bit, but I think today will give us the real confidence that we can progress something online, something face-to-face, perhaps a combination. But so look out for that. But it's also a sign of our collaboration. As you've heard from the industry players in the Southwest collaborating, we too want to collaborate across the various associations and players that are all active in a water space to really promote that inspiration and innovation in water industry. And I think I was thinking about giving a bit more of a spiel about the association, what we can do, but really I think today's event sums it up. It has run so well. It's been a Bunbury focused event, and I think people in Bunbury, you'd be pleased to know we've been up in here. Perth used to be looking at Bunbury down there, but we've been looking at Bunbury up there. You know, I've been watching you up there and I want to talk to you up there, but I know you're seeing me here. I'm getting an inkling of what it's been like to be a TV presenter. I think we're all getting that opportunity. It's really an opportunity that this lockdown has given us to be able to run events like this. So with that, I encourage you to keep an eye out for our future events. Thank you all very much for coming, both to Perth, to Bunbury and online, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Oh, and just before closing today, I just wanted to recognize Cristiano Carvalho. He indeed was it was his idea to have this event here, 6 years ago? And he's been working very hard since the time he was still at the Water Corp, and then he migrated to Aqwest to make this happen and to connect everybody. So well done, Chris. It's done. Thank you, everybody. And please network, connect, and enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you. Bye.